So it's not the constitution that is a problem per se, but those that are supposed to interpret it and then administer it.
See, what we're saying is that people should be passionate about their job. We should have people that love this country. People say, you know what, we don't want the regulation of petroleum products. We want the subsidy to continue. We want our refineries to be prepared. But you go talk to somebody who runs or works in one of these refineries, they will tell you why those refineries can never work.
There is a present and real danger for the corporate existence of Nigeria. Generally, this government is considered as weak.
It should not be so. If we remain like that, then we will remain in socio-economic and political thraldom.
So when you talk about passion, the people ruling us, they are not passionate.
Well, let's take
the House of Rep is not passionate. The senators are not passionate. That's why they are discussing without doing anything. Which sacrifice are they going to offer?
In Nigeria, governance is not about servanthood. Governance in Nigeria is about what can I get.
Last week on the agenda.
What we're talking about is Nigeria, the most populous black nation on earth. We currently, as it is today, we spend about 635 billion naira importing wheat flour annually. Nigeria today is the largest single sole importer of wheat flour. So you can imagine the volume, the magnitude of money and business involved if we can do something to change our mindset to appreciate a substitute to wheat flour. A substitute that is homegrown, a substitute that we are familiar with, that we can really harness, and that is the cassava. Major consuming nation. Sure. So we have a problem. If you look now in the last 3 weeks, price for bread had increased 20%.
Mr. Sotonya. All right, you're welcome. This is The Agenda, and this is beaming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria, Love World Plus. My name is Philip Ihaza, and on this week's episode, we promise to bring you a very bumper package with lots of information, actually, that has been bothering on the hearts and minds of Nigerians. On The Agenda, we take a look at topical issues, current affairs, and as long as it's in the news and it borders the populace of the country, you're sure to have it on this platform. Once again, you're welcome. Right now, I do not, of course, I have a distinguished guest right here in the studio with me to talk about today's topic. But before we introduce the topic, I'd like to tell you that you can be a part of the show. All you have to do is send your comments and contributions to agenda@levelplusnews.net, even right now on the show, and then we can read it out loud on the show. All right. Without further ado, I want to introduce my first guest, just by my left, immediate left. His name is Mr. Kenneth Olisa. He's a friend, actually, to The Agenda. He's been here a couple of times, and he is a chartered accountant, an economist, and a public policy analyst.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Mr. Kenneth.
Thank you.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Then I also have on my far left, Mr. Ayo Olushola. He is a fellow Chartered Institute of Banking and the MD CEO, Swiss Microfinance Bank, Lagos, Nigeria. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you on the show. All right, now this week, the topic we're going to be looking at is perspectives on CBN autonomy and current reforms. We've taken a look at issues relating to the Central Bank of Nigeria even before in the previous editions of The Agenda. But then it's still in the heart of the country because several issues are linked to this topic. If you think you're not affected, then you're not in Nigeria. But as long as you're in Nigeria or even in diaspora, you will be affected properly about this topic. We're going to be looking at perspectives once again on CBN autonomy and the current reforms. All right, so very quickly, I'll just give you a little background of what we're talking about today, and then before we go ahead with the show. Now, the current legal framework within which the CBN operates is the CBN Act of 2012. And 2007 and 2012, which repealed the CBN Act of 1991 and all its amendments. Now, the Act provides that the CBN shall be a fully autonomous body in the discharge of its functions. Okay, and under this Act, the banks and other financial institutions must act with the objective of promoting stability, continuity in economic management. The Act also widened the objectives of CBN to include ensuring monetary and price stability, as well as rendering economic advice to the federal government. Now, in line with this current legal framework within which the CBN operates, one of which is rendering economic advice. Let's start from there because it's a very huge topic. So let's go gradually. You know, from one of the framework or current, in line with the current legal framework within which the CBN operates, is rendering economic advice to the federal government. In what way do you think the role of the federal government, what way do you think the federal government has actually been part and parcel of this role in the CBN, talking about rendering economic advice, you know, and how can they check the CBN's operations? Let me start with you, Mr. Kenneth. Since,
all right, thank
yes,
you. Well, thank you so much, Philip. When you are talking about CBN and the clamor for autonomy, it's been there since 1958 when the act started. But the nation has reacted, you know, along the line, you know, as the clamor, you know, comes and other things. That is why the act has been changed has been reviewed about 6 times since after it was enacted. Now, having said that, what is the crux of this matter is the autonomy. Now, when you are talking about autonomy of an institution in a government, there is no way it's going to operate within the scope of absolutism. There must be built-in checks and balances.
Okay.
Certainly, since the central bank is the banker to bankers, as the banker of the government, and is as an advisor to the government on economy, apart from other things, you must know that this recent controversy, which is in contest, it stems from autonomy as to budgeting. You should be, when you're looking at the autonomy, you are looking at the structure itself. How is it done? If we allow it to operate the way it is, because you cannot operate after your structure. By the way, as we noted, there's the state of Nigeria as a developing country calls for stronger institutions.
Stronger institutions.
Just like Clinton said when he came to Ghana and said, look, you don't need strong men, but you need strong institutions. That within the ambit of those strong institutions, you need to have some structure that is built in internal control.
To check.
If you look at Central Bank of Nigeria, the chairman, the governor is the chairman of board of directors. One of the core functions of Central Bank is maintaining macroeconomic stability. And one of the things they do there is to have monetary policy. And the organ that does that monetary policy in Central Bank is Monetary Policy Committee, in which the Central Bank governor is the chairman.
He's still the chairman.
In which the Central Governor appoints 2 directors. In which the president appoints 3. The 4 deputy directors are, 4 the governors are members. And all those who are under him, they are all, so when he's going is there, the fear that you are at the risk of having to run the system at the death of one man. Now, sorry, when you are still talking about autonomy, you are looking at how did the people come in, and how do they stay, and how do they go? Who appoints them? Who promotes them? Who disciplines them? And who, you know. So the central bank is appointed by the president. The governor is appointed by the president. And all the other directors, some of them went through the rank. So to that extent, I don't know, the autonomy we are looking at for, it could be very, very difficult to have in absolute terms. But the contest here is about budgeting. If we are saying, yes, let's have the authority to enable them to do this job and do them very effectively, I don't have any problem. Because as a professional, you need to have that kind of autonomy. But if I am going to be a consultant, I'm going to have a decision, then I shouldn't be the one, you know, that can dictate that the relationship between us should be a little bit detached, so that I should be able to do my job without undue interference. So in the context, I believe that CBN needs autonomy. But I believe too that the CBN should have internal structure. The structure needs to be reviewed such that it can have built-in control in order to have
checks and balances.
Balances.
Okay, thank you so much. So from what you've said now, it seems that the Central Bank of Nigeria is an autonomous institution, but then when you go in it, it's like it's dictated by one man, majorly. Do you agree with Mr. Kenneth, Mr. Ayew?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I agree with his submissions that
you can't have absolute autonomy, particularly in a country like Nigeria. But the situation you have now with the Central Bank of Nigeria is that, like you said, the president appoints the governor. The governor and probably all the deputy governors are appointed by, they come in, but who promotes them? Okay. Is the governor. So, like I was talking before we came on set, the bankers committee, another body that guide or helps the central bank in formulating its policies. The central bank also has a lot of control over the managing directors of the banks. So you find in most cases you don't really have voices of dissent, constructive dissent, all right, in that system. People necessarily have to toe the line of the CBN governor, the way things are presently. Because if a managing director of any of these money deposit banks comes out openly to criticize or to disagree with the same Central Bank of Nigeria, what his fate is left to your imagination. So, and that is the same thing he's trying to allude to by saying, who promotes these directors of the board of CBN? That exactly is the issue. To give that kind of independence that allows people to freely air their view and then constructively determine which way the CBN wants to go. And that's important. That's not there.
So what you're saying is there's definitely no role of the federal government in terms of checking, or absolute role in checking.
Well, by the law,
the Constitution,
control of federal government has been taken away. The president is the one that the CBN governor needs to convince. Once the president is convinced about any policy of the CBN governor, he has it. And he doesn't even have to go to the House of Assembly, the National Assembly.
So all the powers are answerable to only the executive arm of government.
It used to be that the Minister for Finance was a supervisory minister of the CBN governor. But that, by that act that you quoted in the 2007 Act, that supervisory power of the Federal Minister of Finance was removed, and the CBN stands on its own. And so it now depends on who the incumbent is to be able to. Somebody has said that the biggest thing to manage is freedom, you know. So it now depends on who the incumbent is. But I differ in a little respect that because we have issues with the incumbent, doesn't mean that autonomy in itself is a bad thing for CBN. Because what we want to do is to remove the Central Bank of Nigeria from political interference, necessarily for good, solid planning. And so if the man at the helm of affairs at the Central Bank of Nigeria, you expect him to be apolitical, you expect him to be a professional, you expect him to face his business. And that's how you say it's a 5-year term in the first instance, and then maximum of two tenures or 2 terms, also maybe 10 years. So you want to give them enough room, enough opportunity for their policies to produce results. That's what should be.
Okay. Let's take this angle now. Do you think the independence of the Central Bank of Nigeria provides them with the autonomy to depoliticize their policy actions? For example, since the executive arm of government has a sole contribution or determinant to the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, don't you think still that the executive arm of government might also want the central bank to play according to his tune or to his?
That's exactly the point that is being made. That's exactly the point that we are making now. You see.
So how can the Senate help in that situation?
It's like this. Economists are never united on any point. But depending on who that economist is working for, at that time, that's what will shape his opinions. That's what will shape his action. That's what will shape his ideas. An economist looked at this. 3 economists will be, from different schools of thought will have to look at a particular set of data. One comes up with an idea. He says inflation is going to rise, or interest rates is going to increase. This person says it will remain flat. This other person says it will decrease. But it depends on what is backing that person up. Where is he from? Who is he working for? Exactly. So it's not on. We cannot say that the CBN governor is acting on his own. We think that whatever he's doing, we see the hand of the executive in whatever he's doing. Because either way, he has been able to carry the executive along. Because that was one of the things they told Nigerians. They said in this currency reform,
which we're about to go into,
yes. That the governor, under the act, only had to convince and get the approval of the president, and that he has done. And so that's it. By law. By law. He has kept to the rule of the game.
Okay. Mr. Kenneth, what do you have to say about this, since he has brought it up, Mr. Aye has brought it up, it's called Project Cure. So it's supposed to cure the ailments of the people. Exactly. It's a reconstructuring, and it's a new policy to restructure the Naira, especially the introduction of the 5,000 Naira note and making the 50 Naira note coined.
Yeah, let me say, before I talk on that, let me chip in the fact that the autonomy is not being contested in a whole.
Exactly.
The issue of the autonomy is on the budgeting. That the money you are going to spend in a year, bring the National Assembly to see.
That's where the challenge.
Yes, National Assembly say, look, let us know, let us have an idea of your budget for a year that will approve for you. The Central Bank is not saying that, look, where you want to do your monetary policy issues, come to us. They're not saying that where you want to appoint staff, come to us. They are talking about, let us have your budget. To me, if the Central Bank is working for Nigeria, and Nigerians are represented by the National Assembly, I don't see anything wrong with that totally. I
don't see anything wrong with it.
For present their budget.
Yeah, for the budgeting. And that is to say, if you, that's not only body in Nigeria that, has autonomy. The INEC has autonomy. And the budget of the INEC goes to the federal government. And of course, the INEC organizes the election for the political parties. And it goes to the National Assembly. Why should the budget of the Federal Bank not go to the National Assembly?
But Mr. Sanusi, the central bank governor, current central bank governor, he gave a reason about that budget, that if he presented it to the House of Senate, yes. First of all, time is money in the world of economics. Yes. Thank God I have people in that line. Most of the time, it's either they're going to overshoot, they're going to take too much time to pass the budget, and
we cannot alter that on the need to have control. You cannot say because you need to do this, you just run and run it. You run.
Then do your budget.
Your local finance must be done enough.
Do it in advance. Do it 3 months in advance.
Even the budgetary provision, physical, says that you can spend 3 months after the lapse of the budget. So there's enough time for them to. They can even spend on anticipatory approval or that is. They're not saying that come and we want to approve. If you want to go and buy ink, you want to approve. I think that has to be cleared. Okay. Nobody's saying that because you are. As a National Assembly, come and tell us first before you can have your exchange rate policy, before you can have your interest rate policy. No, I don't think anybody's saying that. So I think the problem is the budgeting. That's what they're talking about.
But I think it should go beyond budgeting. For example, these Nigerians have cried out that most of the Nigerians, the masses, yes. Especially, they've cried about the 5,000 Naira.
There's no way the masses cannot cry about it. The masses can always have the opinion.
So what you're saying is the autonomy should remain on that.
When it's for financial budgeting, yeah. So that they're allowed to do their job. There is no job you are going to that will not cry. 2 people went to court. The judge pronounced somebody guilty. The other party will say, look, but there's a problem. The person is happy. If you go to another court, this one is guilty, other one is happy. So in any system, there's a trade-off. There's nowhere everybody is going to be unanimous in an opinion. Not to talk of an enlightened country like Nigeria with over 160 million population. So that is given. When we are looking at it, overriding benefit of the nation, as proposed by the professional who has the requisite experience, and the authority to do what he has done, there's no problem. Now talking about the CURE project, the Currency Restructuring Project. When we are doing this, we are quick to run into examples. Yeah, you say, oh, this is what America does, this is what this another. Well, without looking at our local imperative. The cost of printing currency now, with what we are saying, the cry coming from government that they don't have money, that they cannot do this, the money is not enough, and at the same time, you want to incur more money in printing currency.
40 billion.
Yes, does not make it consistent with your lamentation. Secondly, you are saying you are launching a cashless policy. At the same time, you are bringing currency that can, and one of the reasons why you are bringing the cashless policy is to control money laundering. And you are bringing a thing that somebody can take 20 million naira and put inside and walk away freely. Comfortably. Yes. Now, when you do that, the argument, look, that is going to be for restricted people. That is not the quality of money. The quality of money is that it must be freely circulated and everybody should have access to it. Now, when you begin to say, look, it's going to be a status symbol, it begins to defeat the quality of money. All right. So I think the timing is wrong. I'll tell you what happened even when I was talking about the example, in Canada. Canada printed 500 Canadian dollar. It was not used because they started that the drug people, they will come, they just put across the border. So although it's a legal tender, you can hardly see it in circulation. In circulation. All right. So I do not think that it is very necessary now. It may not hurt any economic principle. Let's get it right. So people are talking about inflation and all that. It doesn't hurt all those. It does not contravene any of those principles.
But then I think it phases out the coins.
What is economic? Sorry,
I think okay.
What is economically reasonable may not be socially expedient.
Okay.
We are looking at the contextual and social expediency, of what we are trying to do. I do not think that is consistent with the pronunciations or pronouncement of CBN, the government at large, and circumstances in which we find ourselves now.
I was about to say that you said it will not affect any economic policy, but it's going to phase out. Do you agree with Mr. Kenneth?
Well, the point here is that everywhere in the world where higher denomination of the currency has been introduced has always been linked with hyperinflation. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
That's a statement of fact. Go to Zimbabwe, go to Bolivia, go to Malaysia, go to everywhere that higher currency denomination has been introduced. It does not cause inflation per se, but it's a symptom.
That there is.
It's a sign that there's a problem. Now, in 2005, when 1,000 naira was introduced, 1,000 naira then could buy $30.
$30 was equivalent to $30.
Equivalent of $30. Now, the CBN governor has told us now that one of the reasons is that he's doing this, going to print $5,000 naira. Is 5,000 now is equivalent of $30. That in itself is a clear admission that we are dealing with a big inflationary trend here, because that means that over this period,
7 years, 2005,
naira has lost about 500% of its value.
Correct.
That's serious. Now, so long as you don't increase the volume of money in circulation, you cannot have more money pursuing fewer goods, which is the basic definition of inflation. So printing higher denomination by itself does not mean inflation, but it's a sign that you are dealing with something, which is inflation. Of all the countries in Africa, when we compare ourselves with Ghana, South Africa, we can't go to Egypt and Libya because of the current crisis that they have there. Inflation rate in South Africa is 3.6%. Okay, in Nigeria,
2 digits.
It's 2 digits.
Yes.
The CBN has admitted that it's 12.8%. But other bodies, by last year estimates, it says 13.7. And we are not too sure that it's not higher than that, because I am suspicious of the way we measure, we collect data by the Federal Office of Statistics and all that. But let's even take the official rate for it. That's huge, what we are dealing with here. Then another issue that CBN, perhaps on the positive side for CBN, is to look at what CBN is trying to address by currency redenomination and stuff like that. You probably going to outsmart the currency forgers, but also you want to ensure that more of money in circulation is under the purview and the control of CBN. As at last July, about 1,368 billion naira total money in circulation. Out of that, about 800 billion is outside the banks. That's a problem. That's about 57% of the money of total currency.
Total currency.
That is outside CBN's control. Now, to that extent, CBN monetary and policies and reining in inflation and things like that will be a hit and miss because you are only dealing with 44% of your currency, your printed currency.
Yes.
And so you just imagine somebody taking an exam. About 56% of the mark obtainable has already been taken away from him. So he's supposed to write the test and the exam and pass on 44% or 45%. That's at best, even if you are talking about an A student, you will score a D. Or 45. Or you score 45 over 100. Which is still easy. That's exactly what CBN is dealing with here. So maybe one could see reasons for trying to restructure the currency, get more money into the purview of the banks and so more control of CBN. But I think that it is not printing of 5,000 bill or the reducing to coins. We'll come to the issue of coins, which is even more grievous than what Nigerians are shouting about 5,000. So that is the problem. The fundamentals of the Nigerian economy is weak, and that's a big problem. The 1,000, what can it buy? Once money begins to fail, any currency begins to fail in its role as a store of value, it's a big problem. And that's one of the problems that we're dealing with here in this economy. That's a big issue. So I don't know.
Yes, I was just about to. I got some few comments on the show. Like I said, you can be a part of the show. It's agenda@loverplusnews.net. Before we go deep into that, let me quickly read. I have two comments right now. The first one from Stephanie Madu from Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. She says, well, first I have to say thank you to Central Bank of Nigeria for the great work in Nigeria. But to me, I think it's not wise for them to make 5,000 naira notes in one note. They are reducing Nigeria currency, which will do such. I have about 10 reasons why I would not want to be part of that. Please, my fellow Nigerians, this is absolutely not right. Thank you. I wish she gave us 10 reasons. Yes, but then the next one from Victor Inyoko, Lagos. He says, introduction of the 5,000 naira note will definitely cause inflation. The explanation of saving 7 billion naira monthly from printing of lower denominations is just another avenue for government officials to have an additional avenue for taking money from the public fund, just like the oil subsidy. Okay, Mr. Kenneth, what's your reaction to these comments?
Yeah,
thank you so much for those comments. Let's react to them quickly.
Yeah, thanks so much for the comments. Well, I somehow agree with them, even if not properly in context, but I agree with them that the situation, like I said, I mean, the social imperative now cannot support this policy. It does not seem to be a popular policy as it stands. And this is where the fear is rooted on the autonomy. That should we bring a policy to the National Assembly and there's overriding national outcry, we will not be able to have our way on certain things. But I think we have sophisticated professionals in Nigeria to be able to support a policy where it is really reasonable. We have to be careful. When the central bank, I think the central bank was saying that 5,000 naira is about $30. What has happened is exchange rate depreciation. It is not that you have to print a currency to match it. All right. The final destination of countries that are continued to print the currencies, adding zero, that eventually they will do. They will again decimalize the currency or remove some zeros, 2, 3 zeros. It has happened. It has happened in Ghana when they started printing notes. If the next thing we're going to do, somebody print 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 1 million notes. No problem. Remember, what you're having is legal tender, but it's called fiat money. Fiat money means that you as a country with sovereignty, you can take any piece of paper, write as it is 1,000 naira, put stamp, sign it, put people's picture. It can be women or men. It doesn't matter. When you do it, it becomes legal tender. But what does it mean to an outsider? The thing that can resolve it is what they call the exchange rate mechanism. Nothing tells me that the only way you are going to control exchange rate depreciation is by printing a note. It's not done in any test. So when you are telling me that if my 30 naira is now equal to this, for me to equate my 30 naira is for me to print the note. No problem. Tomorrow, exchange rate will crash to 200 today. You print another note to be 4. Is that
maybe this time 1 million naira?
It's not. So I don't think. Let's just take let's take it as information. But it's an information that does not validate this thinking. It doesn't support it. All right.
And this week, like we said, we're still looking at the perspectives on CBN autonomy and the current reforms. One of them is actually called Project Cure, and it's supposed to actually cure the state of the economy in terms of hyperinflation or perceived hyperinflation that is in the air in the economy. And I've been talking to distinguished guests right now. I want to go straight into the coins. I'm surprised so many people have not sent comments about the coins, but they're more particular about the 5,000 naira notes. And I think there's more danger, like you rightly said earlier on the show, about introducing the coins, changing 10 naira, 5 naira, 20 naira to coins. Because I know the mindset of Nigerians. What do you have to say?
Because in Nigeria, there are, firstly, no infrastructure for, the field is not there to spend coins. Okay. What do you spend coins on in Nigeria?
In the first place.
You don't give that to the bus conductor. You don't have a lot of vending machines for you to
drinks and snacks.
You don't spend coins to buy your newspapers. You don't. You see, so that's a for me that's a big issue, a bigger issue than the 5,000 naira problem. Because once you reduce a particular currency to coins, in Nigeria particularly, you just stop seeing coins. The banks don't have coin counters. Yes, there are note counters in banks. You don't have coin counters. So it's going to be a bigger issue than you're thinking here. Your 10 naira used to be for the sachet water.
Sachet water, yes.
But now, that means that
sachet water is going to increase to 15 naira note.
Maybe 15 naira coin.
Note.
Yeah, because when was the last time, Philip, that you saw a Nigerian coin?
Okay.
Now, I'm a banker. Have you seen one? Have you seen one for the last 2 years? No, I'm serious. So, and this is the issue, that you don't just take economic theories and bring them wholesale into a system. You look at the fundamentals of that system. You look at the readiness of the people. You look at the psyche of the people. And then CBN needs to do something. They need to learn. I will counsel CBN to have something called change management. You see, they need to learn about change management. That was done in the issue of we handled the cashless policy.
Yes.
And we almost bungled it because we were trying to put the cart before the horse. It was when experts started shouting, the infrastructure is not there, the enlightenment is not there, and so you saw some bit of public enlightenment on TV and in the newspapers and stuff like that.
It didn't still help.
But even then, it's still not enough, and that is why the thing is almost comatose. It's not. Is it working? Is it really working?
It's a stillborn baby now. Mr. Kenneth, what do you have to say about this that we're talking about, the coins, and how it affects Nigerian mindset? Because I know that an average Nigerian do not want to handle coins at all.
The one good thing with economics is that no matter the big grammar you speak of there, the market woman will interpret it. Bring you to
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Nicely said.
Nigerian economy, the psyche of Nigerian economy has rejected coins. Almost. It's not a bad thing to have coin. But we are looking at where are you, the environment in which you operate. The Nigerian economy has long rejected coin. Even if you do 1 million naira coin, Nigerian economy does not see anything, cannot, have a way off. It has a repulsive attitude to coins. That is understandable. 2, even the central bank itself, like I said, has stopped printing coins. Okay? Then you are looking at the things you buy. Then you're looking at the environment where you think about safety. You're going to have coins in your pocket, boggling out. You're running, people will come after you. It's not going to work. I can always bet things that are sacred that it may not work. But we'll leave it. Take it to the market, and market will pass the verdict. You see it clear. It has happened several. My worry is this. We are putting an overdose therapy on the Nigerian economy. 6 months, not more than 6 months of cashless policy. Yeah. We are bringing another currency. Can't we drive through it and see how it works and look at the defects and begin to see how we can deepen it? We are in a hurry to do so many things for therapy to one sick baby. You understand? We want the Nigerian economy to jump and kick it without addressing the fundamentals. This thing cannot be done mechanically. It reacts to the realities on ground. The economy is not running well. It is not about cash structure. It is not about coin, and the economy is not running well. And the CBN seems not to be following, seems not to be analyzing the sequence of reforms. Reforms and policies that are put in place.
There's no feedback system.
I'm beginning to see why are they not working. Okay. What do we do? By the time you do it, they bring in another idea. Yes, you are trying to show initiative. You're trying to show ingenuity. But you have you try to solve a problem, you create one, you leave it, you bring another one. So I thought that when you talk about cashless policy, you are not talking about cashless policy. If you have cashless policy can take form of a coin. Because I can put my PO and unless for 11 naira. I can no longer say there's no change. Yes. So if the cashless policy would have, as they were taking care of the coin, I can buy 11 naira something and pay for it. Yes. I can pay 11.5 naira and pay for it from my card. You know, so that will not take care of those. So I thought that this, as it stands, Nigerian economy has graduated over and above currency, or over and above note. Why? Sorry. Why the cash policy is there? The cards,
ATM cards,
is there to take care of that coin. I can take my card and buy something for 11 kobo. Is it not? Because the card itself is not denominated. And
before you need your strength,
it's a pool of money from which you can spend, discreetly. So I think if we had looked at this in the benefit of the cashless system and see how you can address some of these problems they are going to solve, it could have been better. With my cashless policy, I can pay somebody 1 million naira at a go. I don't need to have 5,000 naira note. So the problem, we are not able to exploit the robustness of the cashless policy. We have not been able to bring out the full potentials and the full benefit of it, much as some of us think that even the approach in the introduction and the timing should have issue. But itself, the full benefit, the optimal benefit of cashless policy has not been. So the coin itself, I don't have any problem because I am going to witness where the market men are going to pass verdict on it.
What do you have to say, sir? I know that you have a close interaction with the. So you tell us briefly with
we have both agreed that the fundamentals of the Nigerian economy
should be looked upon.
Needs to be looked into.
Sorry, sir. From what you're saying, or both of you are saying, is that the autonomy is okay. We should allow this autonomy.
It's not a problem, but we're talking about his budget, the budget side, the money that the CBN is spending.
They should have their budget. They should render their accounts. Last year, they showed the list of banks, the MDAs, that did not render their account to National Assembly, not to the General Federation. EFCC was top the list. Central Bank is second to it, and here are autonomous.
So you see,
and
now,
meanwhile,
this is supposed to be the apogee of financial discipline in the system. He himself is not subject to anybody, and he's not subject. His budget is
almost like a nation on his own, and a government for himself.
He's acting like
and because it's autonomous, you cannot come at this because he has not subject his account.
Now, this is not about the person that is there. How do you explain the central bank becoming a donor of money people. Whether in Bayelsa or Kano,
issue,
it's not the issue. But is that the job of Central Bank of Nigeria? Have I seen the Federal Reserve Bank of America says he wants to go and donate money to tornado victims at Florida or Louisiana? No, they face the business of managing liquidity, inflation, interest rate, and stuff in the economy. Now let's go back to these fundamentals of the Nigerian economy.
Yeah.
You say we're about 160 million people. Out of that, only about 35% of that population has any bank account at all. So about 65% of this population has no banking interaction at all, or no bank account. All right? About 65% of this economy are what we call the bottom of the pyramid people. All right? Now, what could have helped Nigeria better is to pursue the microfinance policies. Is to pursue it to its logical conclusion. That will bring, it's a policy of inclusion. So the people that are putting their money under their mattresses, under things in their cupboards around themselves, they will bring the money into the system, and the CBN will be better able to tinker with the price of money in the system, rather than controlling only about 40% or 44% of total money in circulation. That is the thing. But we are not pursuing that. The microfinance banks don't have enough money to lend because undue bureaucracy had tied the money that was voted to the medium and small scale enterprises, about over 420 billion naira for the past 5 years. That money has not been given to anybody.
To disburse to
the poor. So I thought that governance ought to be the governing for the larger percentage, the good of the larger percentage. So if what you're doing is just targeting the elites in Lagos, targeting the elites in Kano or Abuja or Port Harcourt, then we are really not addressing the fundamentals of the economy. That is the issue here. Because the people did you know about the Vuvuzela? Vuvuzela, the noisy thing that was used during the World Cup in South Africa. That thing. They showed on TV, on CNN one time, the small factory that was producing that thing in far away China.
Wow.
It was just a one-man office, a one-man factory. All right? Very small factory. But do we have such small scaled factories in Nigeria making international impact? All right? These are the issues we need to look at. Not the Dangotes of this world, not the Dunlops, not the Cadburys and stuff. So we need to look at this, because that's the 65% of Nigerian population are in
that category you talked about.
In that category. And that's a challenge.
Okay, just because of time, I think we should look at now the way forward in this CBN autonomy. And I think there's a bridge between the communication, like he's rightly said, that the governance in this country for now controls or looks at the plight of 35% of the populace, which are mostly elites, than the masses who are actually under the pyramid. So I think we should look at the way forward. What do you think, from your perspective?
The way forward is you apply therapy to a problem to get a solution. That is to say, you start from there. What's the solution? What's the problem? What solution? What result will I get? Nigerian problem today, one of the fundamental problems of Nigeria today is unemployment. The rate of unemployment of Nigeria is very risky and it's unsustainable. Where you have almost 30% of the population not working.
When you say risky, it gets me concerned.
Risky in the fact that it can create social tension, it can cause social turmoil.
Explosion.
All this insecurity you are seeing about, whether it's Boko Haram, whether it is kidnapping, anything, is not far from poverty. Poverty is a result from not having a job. Now the question, if that is the major problem, then how the solution? The solution is how do we create jobs? Ajokuta is, is comatose. Ajokuta would have given you about 30,000 jobs. You look at those industries, that's what America did. Because we take America, we say we have 100 naira piece, we go to 55,000. That's not a lot. What other things America do right? America looked at GM Motors, I gave them money. And Nigeria can take a stake, for instance, in the textile industry. The textile industry in the Kano area can take about 700,000, can give 700,000 employment. Wow. They can get and give money to Bank of Industry, take a stake, buy a stake up in the company, 50-70%, buy a stake, put money in their hands, and say in the management until they're able to pay back this money. When you are doing that, you are creating jobs for Nigeria. You do that for Ajokuta, you do that for steel mill, rolling mill, do that for Shobo. When you are doing the rolling mills are coming out, you are reducing immediately the potential for iron and rod will begin to go down. Your exchange rate will go up. Your exchange rate will need to catch up with the 5,000 I'm talking about. This is the economic therapy you apply. It is not to begin to apply paper money that can equate it. Because that's even it's not a surgery because you are causing more trouble. Wow. Then, if you look at the structure of the banking, every time I'm looking at Bank of Industry.
Yes, we need to round up now. I think the time is out. They're screaming right now about the time. I wish we had enough time to really extend this. Well, Mr. Ayo, we cannot go without your comments, please.
I'll just say let's address funds to the microfinance. Since they are now being restructured, the operators have been trained. They now know what to do. There's a lot of know-how has increased in the microfinance subsector. That money, that 420 billion that have been waiting for the past 5 years, should release it to this microfinance bank to lend to the rural people to grow their productive capacity.
That's your projection.
That's important.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Well, you've heard it all from your views. I'm sure wherever you are right now, you'll be wondering why you didn't send your comments, but you can also do that, and we can read that up in the next edition. Well, it's been an electrifying topic. We've been talking about the perspectives on central bank autonomy and current reforms. I've been speaking to Mr. Ayo Lushola on my far left. He is a fellow, Chartered Institute of Banking, the MD CEO of Swiss Microfinance Bank, Lagos, Nigeria. So, of course, you can hear all the comments. He was concerned about the populace, and I've been also talking to Mr. Kenneth Olisa. Thank you so much, sir. He's a chartered accountant, economist, and public policy analyst. One word from them all: we should focus on the fundamental issues of the country, ensure that there is production in the country, and forget about putting paper policies in place. Well, my name is Philip Ihaza. We've actually run out of time, but then we'll be back here same time next week with another interesting topic. We hope you'll be there also with us. Until then, bye-bye. Thanks for joining.
So it's not the Constitution that is a problem per se, but those that are supposed to interpret it and then administer it.
See, what we're saying is that people should be passionate about their job. We should have people that love this country. People say, you know what, we don't want deregulation of petroleum products. We want the subsidy to continue. We want our refineries to be prepared. But you go talk to somebody who runs or works in one of these refineries, they will tell you why those refineries can never work.
There is a present and real danger for the corporate existence of Nigeria. Generally, this government is considered as weak.
It should not be so. If we remain like that, then we will remain in socio-economic and political thraldom.
So when you talk about passion, the people ruling us, they are not passionate.
Well, let's take
the House of Rep is not passionate. The senators are not passionate. That's why they are discussing without doing anything. Which sacrifice are they going to offer?
In Nigeria, governance is not about servanthood. Governance in Nigeria is about what can I get.